Welcome to Private Stories, where people discover who they really are.
At 2 in the morning, the sharp rhythm of heels echoed through the quiet suburban street as Madeline Carter walked quickly toward her home. Her blonde hair, usually styled into flawless waves for her nightly news appearances, was now slightly disheveled, strands slipping over her shoulders in careless disarray. The cool night air brushed against her flushed skin, but it did nothing to calm the storm inside her. She paused for a second beneath a street lamp, pressing her fingers gently against her lips. The lipstick was smudged, a silent reminder. Just a few hours earlier she had been in a dimly lit hotel room, tangled in the arms of Adrian Blake, her colleague, her secret, the one man who made her forget who she was supposed to be, or who she used to be. Her heart still raced from it. That reckless, forbidden adrenaline pulsed through her veins, making her feel alive in a way her marriage hadn't in years. Desired, chosen, seen. But as she stepped closer to the house, something shifted. The lights were on, all of them. Her stomach tightened. That wasn't normal, not at this hour. Madeline slowed her pace, her heels clicking softer now, almost hesitant. The perfectly trimmed lawn glowed unnaturally under the porch lights, the house looking less like a home and more like a stage. Like something was waiting for her. Her hand hovered over the door handle. A strange instinct crept in, sharp, undeniable. Something is wrong. She had trusted that instinct her entire career as a journalist. It had never failed her, and now it screamed. Still, she opened the door. The moment she stepped inside, the air felt different, heavy, cold, too quiet, and then she saw it, a suitcase placed neatly by the entrance. Black leather, expensive, familiar. Her chest tightened as recognition hit her. She had bought it herself. A gift for Daniel Carter on their anniversary just a year ago. A chill ran down her spine. The thrill from earlier, the warmth, the excitement evaporated instantly, leaving behind only dread. No, 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 no. She moved forward slowly, each step heavier than the last. The living room lights were dim, but the flicker of the television cast a pale glow across the space. Daniel sat on the couch, perfectly still, his posture straight, his hands resting calmly on his knees. Too calm. That was the first thing that terrified her. Daniel. Her voice came out softer than she expected. He didn't answer, didn't even look at her. Instead, he raised his hand slightly and pointed at the TV. Her breath caught, and then everything inside her collapsed. The screen showed a video, clear, sharp, unforgiving. It was her and Adrian, different locations, different nights. Every glance, every touch, every betrayal recorded, exposed. There was no way to deny it, no way to twist the truth. Madeline felt her knees weaken slightly as the room seemed to tilt. This wasn't just suspicion. This was destruction. Without a word, Daniel reached beside him and picked up a thick envelope. He extended it toward her. Still not looking at her, her fingers trembled as she took it. Slowly she opened it. Divorce papers. The words blurred in front of her eyes. Her heart slammed painfully against her ribs as the reality sank in. This was real, before she could even form a sentence. A sharp sound broke the silence. She turned and saw her, Lily. Their daughter stood near the corner of the room, her small frame tense, her blonde hair messy, her eyes red and swollen from crying. In her trembling hands she held one of Daniel's glass sculptures, a delicate piece, translucent, fragile, beautiful, just like everything Madeline had destroyed. Lily, honey, Madeline stepped forward instinctively. But Lily's face twisted with something raw, something broken. How could you? She whispered, her voice shaking, and then louder. How could you do this to us? Her hands tightened, and the sculpture slipped. It shattered against the floor. The sound cut through the room like a blade, pieces scattering everywhere. Irreversible. I trusted you. Lily cried, tears streaming down her face. Every single day I believed you, and you were lying to me the whole time. Each word struck harder than anything Madeline had ever faced on live television. This wasn't an audience. This wasn't public judgment. This was worse. This was her daughter. Madeline reached out, desperate, but Lily stepped back sharply, as if her mother had become something untouchable, something toxic. She turned instead, running to Daniel, clinging to him tightly, choosing him. That moment broke something inside Madeline completely. Finally, Daniel spoke. His voice was calm, too calm. "We know everything, Madeline." The pause. Heavy, final. There's nothing left to say. Now he looked at her, and the emptiness in his eyes was worse than anger, worse than hate. "Please leave." No shouting, no accusations, just a quiet sentence that ended everything. Madeline stood there, frozen in place as the weight of her choices crashed down on her all at once. Hours ago, she had felt alive, unstoppable, free. Now, she had nothing. The fluorescent lights in the roadside motel buzzed faintly, casting a harsh, unforgiving glow over the cramped room. Madeline sat on the edge of the bed, still wearing the same dress from the night before. The once elegant fabric now looked wrinkled, lifeless, like it had lost its purpose. Like her. Her blonde hair fell messily over her shoulders, strands sticking to her damp cheeks. She hadn't bothered fixing it, hadn't bothered fixing anything. In her hand, she clutched her phone, her only lifeline. For the 10th time in less than 15 minutes, she dialed Adrian Blake. The call rang, and then voicemail again. Her jaw tightened. Her fingers trembled as she pulled the phone back and immediately tried again. "Adrian, please," her voice cracked as she left yet another message. "I need you. Everything's falling apart. Daniel knows. Lily knows. I don't know what to do. Just call me back, okay? Please." Silence answered her. The kind of silence that slowly crushes you. She dropped the phone onto the bed, staring at the stained ceiling. For a moment, she tried to convince herself this wasn't happening, that she could still fix it. That Adrian would call back, show up, take her hand, and say it had all meant something. But deep down, she already knew. The next morning, Madeline walked into the newsroom of Channel 8 News with her head held high, at least on the outside. Inside, everything was unraveling. She felt it immediately, the shift in the air. Conversations stopped when she passed. Eyes followed her. Whispers spread like a quiet infection. They knew, of course they knew. In her world, secrets didn't stay buried. They became headlines, and she had just become one. Madeline. The sharp voice came from behind. She turned to see Victoria Hayes, the station director, standing near her office. Strict posture, perfect suit, cold eyes. "Come in." Yes. Madeline nodded and followed her, every step feeling heavier than the last. The door closed behind them with a soft click that somehow sounded final. Victoria didn't waste time. "This situation," she said, crossing her arms, "is already affecting the network." Madeline swallowed. "I can explain." "I'm not interested in your explanation." The words hit like a slap. Victoria stepped closer, her voice low and controlled. "We are a news organization. Credibility is everything, and right now, you are a liability." Madeline felt her throat tighten. "This could cost you your position." Silence filled the room. Desperate, grasping for anything, Madeline spoke quickly. "What if I turn it into something? A story, a series?" Victoria raised an eyebrow. "Go on." Yes. "A deep dive into workplace relationships, the reality behind them, the consequences, the psychology," Madeline continued, her words rushing out. "Raw, honest, something people can relate to." Victoria studied her. For a long moment she said nothing. Then, "That's risky." "I know. It could backfire." "I know." Another pause. Finally, Victoria exhaled sharply. "I'll consider it." It wasn't approval, but it wasn't rejection either. And right now, that was enough. Madeline stepped out of the office, her heart still racing. Before she could gather herself, someone grabbed her wrist and pulled her into an empty conference room. She gasped slightly. Adrian. He shut the door behind them quickly, his face pale, his usual confidence completely gone. "This is a disaster," he hissed. Madeline blinked, confused. "What?" "My wife found out," he continued, pacing. "She's threatening to leave me, and I just got an offer from another network. A big one." Madeline stared at him. Something inside her started to crack. "Okay," she said slowly. "Then we deal with it together." Adrian stopped, looked at her, and then shook his head. "No." The word hit harder than anything Daniel had said. "I'm leaving," Adrian continued. "I can't let this ruin my career." Madeline felt like the floor disappeared beneath her. "You're joking," she whispered. "I'm sorry." "You said," her voice broke, anger rising through the pain, "you said this meant something." He looked away. That was before it became public. Silence heavy, cruel. "You can't just walk away," she said, stepping closer. "You don't get to disappear when it gets hard." But he was already backing toward the door. "I have to." "Adrian." "I'm sorry, Madeline." And then he was gone, just like that, leaving her alone in a room that suddenly felt too small to breathe in. That night, unable to face another suffocating hour in the motel, Madeline drove past her house, her former home. She parked across the street, her hands gripping the steering wheel tightly. The lights were on inside. Through the window she could see them, Daniel and Lily, sitting close together, talking, healing, without her. The sight cut deeper than anything else. That was her life, her family. And now, she was just a stranger watching from the outside. Her vision blurred as tears filled her eyes. Then she noticed something else. The garage door was slightly open. Inside, boxes packed, stacked, organized. Daniel wasn't just leaving her, he was moving on completely. Panic surged through her. She grabbed her phone and dialed his number. Once, twice, 3 times, nothing. Then, the cold, automated voice. "This number is no longer in service." Madeline froze, every door, every connection, severed. She lowered the phone slowly, her hand shaking. For the first time, the reality hit her fully. She wasn't just losing control, she had already lost everything. In the quiet backyard workshop of the house she no longer belonged to, Daniel Carter stood surrounded by shards of glass. The air rang with the sharp, echoing sound of breaking pieces, violent, precise, almost rhythmic. Each strike was deliberate, controlled, but filled with something deeper: pain. On the workbench in front of him lay fragments of what used to be something whole, clear glass now fractured into jagged, uneven edges. Under the harsh white light, the pieces reflected distorted versions of his face, broken just like everything else. Daniel picked up another piece, turning it slowly between his fingers. His reflection split into fragments across its surface. For a moment he saw her, Madeline, laughing, alive, untouched by consequences. His jaw tightened. With a sudden motion, he slammed the piece down, shattering it further. The sound echoed through the workshop. He didn't flinch. He welcomed it, because it was the only thing that made sense anymore. His phone rang. Daniel paused, breathing heavily, before wiping his hands on a cloth and picking it up. "Hello, Mr. Carter. This is Elena Volkov from Aurora Contemporary Gallery." Her voice was smooth, professional, intriguingly warm. "I've been following your work for some time," she continued. "And your recent pieces, they're extraordinary, raw, emotional, different." Daniel frowned slightly, glancing around at the scattered shards. "They're not exactly finished," he replied. "That's exactly why they matter," Elena said. "We'd like to offer you a place in our upcoming exhibition, Fragments of Truth." He froze. An exhibition. A real one, not just small commissions or local showcases. This was something bigger, much bigger. It could be a turning point for your career, she added gently. Daniel tightened his grip on the phone. A part of him wanted to say yes immediately, to take it, to turn his pain into something powerful, but another part hesitated. I need time, he said finally, his voice rough. Of course, Alina replied. But don't take too long. Opportunities like this don't wait. The line went dead. Daniel stood there staring at nothing. His life had shattered, and somehow, something new was forming from the pieces. Across town at Ridgewood High School, Lily Carter walked through the crowded hallway with her head down. The noise around her felt louder than usual. Whispers, laughter, judgment, she could feel it. Even when no one said anything directly, she knew. They all knew about her mother, about the affair, about everything. Hey, Lily. The voice cut through the noise like a knife. She froze. Slowly turning, she saw Chloe Bennett, her former best friend, leaning against a locker, a smirk playing on her lips. Oh, wait, Chloe added loudly, making sure others could hear. Should I call you the girl whose mom prefers other men? A few people nearby snickered. Something inside Lily snapped. Shut up, she said quietly. Chloe laughed. What? It's not a secret anymore. That was it. Before she even realized what she was doing, Lily lunged forward. The two girls collided, grabbing at each other, hair, arms, anything, anger exploding into motion. Gasps filled the hallway. It took two teachers to pull them apart, both of them breathing heavily, both shaken, but only one of them completely broken inside. Later that day, Daniel sat across from Mrs. Harper, Lily's English teacher. Concern was written all over her face. I'm worried about her, she said gently, sliding a folder across the desk. Her grades have dropped significantly. She's withdrawn, and today's incident wasn't the first sign. Daniel opened the folder slowly. Test scores, notes, comments. Each page felt heavier than the last. I knew she was struggling, he admitted quietly. I just didn't realize how much. Mrs. Harper leaned forward slightly. She needs support, Mr. Carter, stability. Right now, you're her anchor. Daniel nodded, but inside a storm raged, because he was barely holding himself together. And yet, he had to be strong for her. As he left the school, lost in thought, something caught his attention. A car parked near the entrance, silver, familiar. His expression darkened instantly. Madeline, she was here, of course she was. Panic surged through him, not for himself, for Lily. He quickened his pace, spotting his daughter just as she stepped out of the building. And then he saw it, Madeline approaching her, her face pale, eyes desperate. Lily, sweetheart, please, Madeline reached out. Lily stepped back immediately. No. Just one word. Cold, final. Madeline's hand froze midair. Please, just let me explain. There's nothing to explain, Lily snapped, her voice shaking. You lied, that's it. Daniel stepped between them, his presence firm, unmovable. Madeline, he said quietly, his tone controlled but unmistakably sharp, you need to leave. Madeline looked at him, then at Lily, and for a brief second, her composure cracked. I'm still her mother, she whispered. Daniel's jaw tightened. Then act like it, he replied. The words hit harder than any shout. Madeline opened her mouth. But nothing came out because there was nothing left to say. Slowly she stepped back, then turned and walked away, alone, again. Inside the car, silence stretched between Daniel and Lily as they drove home, heavy, unspoken. Until... Dad, Lily's voice broke softly. He glanced at her, tears filled her eyes. I'm scared. His heart clenched. Of what? What if she leaves forever? She whispered. What if you do too? Daniel immediately pulled the car over. He turned to her, taking her hands in his. Hey, look at me. She did, barely holding herself together. I'm not going anywhere, he said firmly. Ever, do you hear me? Her lips trembled. We're going to get through this, together. A pause, I promise. Lily nodded slowly before collapsing into his arms, crying. And this time, Daniel let himself cry too, quietly, because in that moment, surrounded by pain and uncertainty, the only thing that still made sense was each other. 3 months passed. Autumn settled over the city, painting the streets in shades of gold and fading red, like everything was quietly changing, whether anyone was ready or not. Inside his workshop, Daniel Carter stood in front of his latest piece. It was unlike anything he had ever created. A large glass structure, sharp, fractured, yet somehow balanced. Light passed through it in uneven patterns, casting broken reflections across the walls. It wasn't just art, it was a confession, a story, pain, betrayal. And something else. Survival. His phone rang, pulling him out of his thoughts. He wiped his hands and answered. Daniel Carter. Mr. Carter, this is Elena Volkov from Aurora Contemporary Gallery again. Her tone carried a quiet excitement. I'm calling about your new collection, Shattered Reflections. It's already gaining attention. Critics are talking. We'd like to offer you a solo exhibition. Daniel closed his eyes for a second. A solo exhibition, national exposure. The kind of opportunity artists wait their entire lives for. This could change everything for you, Elena added softly. Daniel exhaled slowly. It already has. A pause, I'll do it. Later that evening, Lily walked into the kitchen, dropping her backpack onto a chair. Hey, Daniel said, leaning against the counter. How was school? She shrugged, opening the fridge. Same. But he knew better. The last few months had been hard on her. The whispers hadn't stopped. The looks hadn't softened, and her mother's absence still lingered in everything. Hey, he said again, more gently this time. I got a call today. What? She glanced at him. They're giving me a solo exhibition. Her eyes widened. Wait, seriously. He nodded, for the first time in a long while. She smiled. Dad, that's amazing. Her reaction caught him off guard. I wasn't sure if I should take it, he admitted, with everything going on. Lily closed the fridge and turned fully toward him, and in that moment she didn't look like a child anymore. Dad, she said firmly, you can't pause your life because of what she did. The words hung in the air, honest, painful, true. This is your chance, she continued. You deserve this. Daniel felt something tighten in his chest, pride, and something close to relief. He stepped forward and pulled her into a hug. When did you grow up? He murmured. Lily let out a small laugh against his shoulder. Someone had to. Across the city, in a glass-walled office overlooking downtown, Madeline Carter sat at her desk, staring at a blank computer screen. Her reflection stared back at her. Faded, tired, unrecognizable. The whispers hadn't stopped for her either, if anything. They had grown louder. Every mistake she had made had turned into public narrative. Every glance from her colleagues carried judgment, doubt, disgust. Her position as a lead anchor, once untouchable, now felt fragile, temporary, disposable. She needed something, anything, to take control again. And then, an idea formed, risky, dangerous, but maybe. Her only chance. Another idea. Victoria Hayes asked dryly as Madeline stepped into her office. Madeline didn't sit. She stood tall, forcing confidence into her voice. A series, she said, about broken families, about reconciliation, real stories, no filters. Victoria leaned back, watching her carefully. And this has nothing to do with your personal situation, I assume. Madeline held her gaze. My experience gives me perspective. Silence stretched, heavy, calculated, finally. Victoria nodded once. Fine, we'll try it. Relief flooded through Madeline, but it was short-lived. I'm pairing you with Victor Nalin, Victoria added. He doesn't sugarcoat things. If this goes wrong, it's on you. Madeline swallowed. I understand. As she stepped out of the office, her phone vibrated. A message from Adrian. Her heart skipped. For a moment, everything else disappeared. She opened it. I heard about your situation. We should talk. No apology, no emotion, just convenience. Madeline stared at the screen. For months he had been silent, gone, and now he was back. Slowly, a cold determination replaced the ache in her chest. Things were different now. She was different now. She typed a response. I'll be there. That night in his study, Daniel sat with his phone in his hand. He had just finished speaking with a therapist, Dr. Evelyn Ross. Her words echoed in his mind. Art can heal, Daniel, but shared healing is even more powerful. He thought about Lily, about everything they had been through, and then an idea began to take shape, something bigger than just his own pain, something that could help others. He stood up suddenly, energy building inside him. Walking down the hallway, he knocked lightly on Lily's door. She was sitting on her bed, headphones in, sketching. Hey, he said, can I show you something? She pulled off her headphones. Sure. He hesitated for a second. Then, what would you think about creating something together? A project. Your photography, my sculptures. Her eyes lit up instantly. Wait, really? He smiled. Yeah, something meaningful. Something healing for both of them. Lily's smile widened. I'd love that. And just like that, for the first time in months, the house didn't feel broken anymore. The night of the exhibition arrived with a quiet kind of electricity in the air. Inside Aurora Contemporary Gallery, the room pulsed with soft conversations, clinking glasses, and the low hum of anticipation. The city's art elite moved from piece to piece, drawn into the raw emotion embedded in every shard of glass. Daniel's collection, Shattered Reflections, stood at the center of it all. Each sculpture told a story, not of perfection, but of destruction and what comes after. Across the room, Daniel stood beside Lily. He wore a tailored dark suit, simple but sharp. Gone was the broken man from months ago. In his place stood someone steady, grounded, stronger. Lily held onto his arm lightly, her own outfit elegant but youthful, a soft cream dress that contrasted beautifully with her still fragile but growing confidence. They love it, she whispered, her eyes scanning the room. Daniel followed her gaze. People were stopping, staring, feeling. We did this, he replied quietly, because it wasn't just his work anymore. It was theirs, across the gallery, unnoticed by most. Madeline stood in the shadows, dressed in black, large sunglasses hiding her face, but nothing could hide the way her chest tightened as she looked at them. Daniel, Lily, together, whole without her. For a moment she forgot how to breathe. This was the life she had lost, not in one moment, but in a series of choices. Small, selfish, irreversible. She took a step forward. Then another, drawn to them like something unfinished, but before she could reach them, a voice stopped her. Madeline Carter. She froze. Turning slowly, she came face to face with Alina Volkov. Recognition flickered instantly in the curator's eyes, and something else, pity. I think it's best if you don't disturb them tonight, Alina said gently. Madeline's throat tightened. I wasn't going to. But the lie fell apart before she could finish it, because she didn't even know what she was going to do. Apologize, beg, explain. None of it would be enough. Without another word, she turned and walked away, faster, then faster, until she was outside, the cool night air hitting her like reality. She kept walking, not stopping, because staying would have destroyed her completely. The next morning, Daniel's phone rang. He answered cautiously. Hello. Good morning. This is Sophie Lane from Morning America Live. He blinked. We'd love to have you on the show to talk about your work and your incredible story. Daniel leaned back slightly, on national television, just months ago. He had been sitting in silence, surrounded by broken glass and a broken life. And now, I'd be honored, he said. The interview day came quickly. Bright lights, cameras, a live audience. Daniel adjusted his tie, his reflection staring back at him from the dressing room mirror. For a second, doubt flickered, but then he thought of Lily, of everything they had rebuilt, and it steadied him. "Welcome, Daniel Carter," the host smiled warmly as they went live. "Your exhibition has taken the art world by storm. Tell us, what inspired this transformation?" Daniel paused, not because he didn't know the answer, but because he did. "Life has a way of breaking you," he said calmly, "sometimes completely." The audience grew quiet. "But I learned that what matters is what you build from the pieces." He didn't mention Madeline, didn't need to. The story was already there. In every word, at the same time across the city. Madeline sat in a dim editing room, on the screen in front of her. A woman cried, confessing, regretting, destroyed by her own choices. "Do you think they ever forgive?" The woman asked through tears. Madeline swallowed. She couldn't look away. Beside her, Victor Nalin leaned back in his chair. "You know," he said casually, "you could do this." Madeline turned slightly. "What?" "Tell your story," he continued. "On camera, real, raw, no mask." Her chest tightened. "No, I can't." But the idea stayed, because maybe. That was the only thing she had left, that night. The segment aired, and Madeline Carter, the woman who had always controlled the narrative, finally lost it. On camera she broke, tears, confession, no script, no protection, just truth, painful, ugly, real, within hours. The video spread everywhere. Clips, comments, judgment, some felt sympathy, most did not. In his apartment, Adrian watched it, silent, uncomfortable. He had walked away at the right time, saved himself. Watching Madeline fall apart on screen. He knew it. Without hesitation, he picked up his phone, blocked her, everywhere, final. And as two videos spread across the country. Daniel's calm, powerful interview. And Madeline's emotional collapse. The world chose a side, Daniel. The man who turned pain into strength, Madeline. The woman who destroyed everything and couldn't escape it, that night. In two different places. They both stared at the ceiling, thinking about the same night, the same choices, the same moment. That changed everything, but their paths had never been more different. Weeks passed, and the world didn't forget, if anything. It amplified everything. The footage from the charity exhibition, the confrontation, Madeline grabbing the microphone, her voice filled with anger and desperation. It spread across social media like wildfire. Clips, headlines, opinions, everywhere. Inside his workshop, Daniel stood quietly watching his phone light up again and again with notifications. Messages, interview requests, offers, support. But he ignored most of them because not all attention felt right. "Careful," came a voice behind him. He turned. Sophie Lane, now not just a TV host but his newly assigned agent, leaned against the doorway with a stack of papers. "You're becoming a story people want to use," she said. "Make sure you're the one telling it." Daniel exhaled slowly. "I'm not interested in tearing anyone down." Sophie nodded. "Good. Then don't, but tell the truth." Meanwhile, Madeline's world continued to shrink. The newsroom felt colder now, more distant. When she walked in, conversations didn't just stop. People avoided her completely. Her show ratings dropped. Her honest confession hadn't redeemed her, it had exposed her, completely. Madeline. Victoria's voice again, but this time there was no tension, no warning, just finality. "We're letting you go." The words landed quietly, but they hit harder than anything before. Madeline sat still, numb. "You've become too much of a risk," Victoria continued. "For the network, for the brand." Madeline opened her mouth, but nothing came out, because deep down, she knew this wasn't sudden. This was the result of everything. An hour later, she walked out of the building carrying a small cardboard box. Her entire career reduced to that: photos, papers, fragments, just like Daniel's glass, only there was no beauty in hers. Days turned into weeks. Job interviews came and went, each one the same: polite smiles, careful questions, and then rejection. Her name arrived before she did, and it closed doors eventually. She took what she could get: a late-night radio slot, small, forgettable, a voice in the dark, talking to strangers who didn't know her face, didn't know her past, didn't judge, at least not openly. One night after finishing her shift, Madeline sat alone in the studio. The red "On Air" sign had turned off. Silence filled the room, for the first time in a long while. There was no noise, no pressure, no image to maintain, just her and the truth across the city. Daniel's life continued to expand. Invitations poured in. Schools, organizations, art programs. People wanted what he had created. Not just the art, but the meaning behind it. Standing on a stage at a community center, Daniel looked out at a room full of people, students, teachers, parents, all listening. "All of us go through something," he said calmly. "Pain doesn't make you weak. What you do with it, that's what defines you." The room was silent, connected, real. Beside the stage stood Lily, watching him, proud, but more than that, at peace. Later that evening, as the event ended, a woman approached Daniel, elegant, confident. "I'm Dr. Elena Grant," she said, "from the National Academy of Arts." Daniel's expression shifted slightly. Recognition. "We've been following your work," she continued, "and your story." She paused. "We'd like to offer you a position, guest artist, teaching, mentoring." Daniel blinked. Another opportunity, another turning point. That night he told Lily, she didn't hesitate, "You have to do it." He smiled faintly. "It would mean moving." "I know." A pause, "But maybe that's okay." She looked at him, not as a child, but as someone who had grown through everything. "Maybe we're ready." Daniel studied her for a moment, then nodded. "Maybe we are." Later that same night, in a small, dim apartment, Madeline sat at her kitchen table, a laptop open in front of her. On the screen, a blank document, title, "My Story." She stared at it for a long time, hands still, heart heavy. This wasn't about saving her reputation anymore. That was gone. This was something else. Understanding, accountability, truth. Slowly, she began to type, not as a journalist, not as a public figure, but as a woman who had destroyed her own life and was finally ready to admit it for the first time. There was no one left to blame. Winter came quietly. A clean January morning stretched across the city as sunlight reflected off fresh snow, soft and blinding, like the world had decided to start over. Inside the National Academy of Arts, a large exhibition hall buzzed with voices, movement, and quiet admiration. Students, professors, critics, all gathered around one central installation. A massive piece, glass, fragments, light, and photographs woven between the cracks. It was called "Forward Through the Fracture." Daniel stood beside it, still, calm, different, not untouched by pain, but shaped by it. Next to him stood Lily, no longer the broken girl from months ago. her posture confident, her eyes clear. Her work, her photography, was now part of something bigger, something meaningful. "You ready?" Daniel asked quietly. Lily smiled, more than ever. People approached them, questions, compliments, recognition, but what mattered most was something else, peace, across the hall. A woman stood near the entrance, watching, still, unmoving. Madeline, her blonde hair was shorter now, simpler, no longer styled for cameras, no makeup, no performance, just her. She hadn't planned to come, but something pulled her here, maybe closure, maybe punishment, maybe both. She watched as Lily spoke to a group of students explaining her photographs, her voice steady, her expression alive. Madeline's chest tightened. That was her daughter. And yet, she felt like a stranger. Daniel noticed her first. Of course he did, for a brief moment. Their eyes met. A long silence passed between them. Not angry, not explosive, just final. Madeline didn't move closer, didn't speak, because now she understood. Some things can't be repaired, not the way we want, but Lily. Lily saw her, their eyes locked, a pause, then Lily stepped forward, just one step. Daniel watched carefully, but didn't stop her. Madeline's breath caught. "Lily," she whispered, her voice fragile, uncertain. She didn't know what to say, for once. Words failed her. Lily studied her, really studied her, not the version from TV, not the mother she remembered, but the woman standing in front of her now. Broken, real. "I'm not ready to forgive you," Lily said quietly. The words landed softly, but honestly. Madeline nodded, tears forming in her eyes. "I know." A pause. "But I'm trying," Lily added. And that was more than Madeline deserved, more than she expected. Daniel stepped closer now, not between them, just near, present, protective, but calm. Madeline looked at him. "I read your work," she said softly. "It's beautiful." Daniel held her gaze for a moment, then nodded once. "Take care of yourself, Madeline." Not cold, not warm, just closed, and that was it. No dramatic ending, no reunion, no redemption arc wrapped in a perfect bow, just reality. Madeline turned and walked away, not running, not collapsing, just walking, forward, alone, but this time aware behind her. Daniel and Lily stood together, stronger, not because they hadn't broken, but because they had rebuilt. And as people continued to gather around their work, as light passed through fractured glass and cast something unexpectedly beautiful, one truth remained. Some stories don't end with getting everything back. Some stories end with becoming someone new.
Thank you for watching this video to the end. Visit our channel for interesting and intriguing stories.